last 30 days. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce Brandon, who's going to be the introducer for our guest today. So Brandon, have at it.
Thank you, Gil. Well, and first of all, I gotta say welcome for all that are here, and especially for any first-time visitors. We have a background that I'm going to mention as information for those who are maybe not acquainted with our program series. It's a series of speakers, and our most recent one, whose married name, by the way, is no longer Roney, it's Miller. She's April Roney Miller, but she's a classmate that is a part of a series of speakers that we've had. Eric Ellis was one last week, and we've had before that a number that included people going back to Green Hills as a high school, as well as Forest Park as a high school, and at that time in our school district history when there were two schools. No longer the case, of course, but it was a series that we designed around the theme of great grads. And today's speaker, April Roney Miller, is one like the others who exemplifies what an education, in our view, in an open and welcoming community, prepares a person to accomplish in life in the 20th century world, 21st century world. And it's namely, as we see it, to have an impact on our world. Now, April, I learned about by a yearbook that we have in our position because our oldest son is a classmate, was a classmate of hers, and in every yearbook in those days, you'd find a list of the things that the student did identified with, and this is half of April's story. I have more of it on a second slide. I wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance to see how she started out as an undergrad at high school, but there is some puzzling information there because we no longer have a German club, just as an example. We also no longer have a gymnastics team. She was not only on the gymnastics team, she was an MVG.
Whatever that is.
I think, I can guess, and you probably can too,
Most valuable gymnast.
most valuable gymnast. That had to be MVG. But now that's only the first of my two slides. The second one is the next one. If you can get it up for us, Nick, appreciate it.
And all the music.
All the music
Can you
stuff,
see that?
yeah.
Oh yeah, there's another.
Is that
This is the 15 to 34. I only showed you the first 14 lines, of 34 lines of information. And this is it. This is the rest of it. You see, already as a sophomore, she was participating in a musical carousel, but only as an usher. According to the yearbook, she climbed the ladder though, watched the ladder evolve. She became, in Heaven Can Wait, a member of the makeup staff as well as the stage crew. But at Brigadoon, she got in the chorus and she became a dancer, participated as a dancer. Curious Savagery kind of a setback, but and it gets you good. Makeup, dancer, chorus, and minor role. Can you scroll it up, Nick, a little bit? Because we're not out of that. Okay. Yeah. Drama club, thespian, card section. Card section must mean what you do at a football game.
Yeah,
Hold up the card.
I was in that too.
Okay. I thought as much, but so this is her resume, and it made me wonder after it was all finished why she didn't go into a stage career. Like Broadway, for example, which is an ambition some people have with that much experience, and our school has produced students that highly qualified who've gone to Broadway. But now I just want to add a closing note, though. This is not to take away any further more, but April and our son, our oldest son, were classmates, along with Teresa, are Historical Society Vice President, and others like Eric, who was the previous speaker for us, but and our daughter was a year behind. So we have a close association with April, but I'm not going to take any more time. It's yours.
Okay, no problem. Well, this minor role here of in Annie Get Your Gun is I was a person meeting Annie Oakley, and I said, charmed. Okay, so I still remember my lines in case anyone is doing Annie Oakley soon. And I can have a minor role in your production as well. But it's fabulous to be here today. It's nice to see so many people that I have ties to from your kids or being some of the schoolmates, and I'm very proud to be from Forest Park. Forest Park gave me a great childhood, a great opportunity for education, and then as well, it gave me a good launch. I think some of these things that Mr. Weirs has presented started me in leadership that I didn't realize as a high school student that these were leadership opportunities. But as I grew and got through my undergraduate program and moved into my professional career, I found that they prepared me a lot for being a leader in my community and in my school districts that I worked in. I worked at, first I went to The Ohio State University. I got my undergraduate degree there, and
She lived in the stadium.
I lived in the stadium my freshman year, but then I got kicked out of the scholarship dorm, so I had to go somewhere else. My grade point wasn't so great, but I did come out with a 2.0, so out of the first year with a 2.0. So they didn't recalculate my grade point before they kicked me out of the dorm. So then I studied special education, and I studied to be a special educator at the time it was called Educable Mentally Retarded. That is a group of children who need like full-time support in a classroom. Some of them were able to learn their names and the numbers and how to read and work real hard. But then there were some kids in my class that were trying to write their name and work on simple math facts. And that was my passion. I loved working in classrooms with children with special needs. I didn't know where that future would go. I was just a teacher. And teachers are really important, so it's not just a teacher, but I was a teacher. I moved to, I taught 1 year in Boone County as a junior high teacher. I survived junior high, and all the children survived as well, so that was very important to me. It was not, none of the kids got hurt or disappeared. So that was a successful year for me. It was very difficult for me, and I thought about quitting just about every day. The next year, I was getting married, and I married a guy from Norwood, and he was a year older than me at Norwood. But what happened is he got a job in London, Ohio, near Columbus, about an hour west of Columbus. And he got a job there as a band director at the middle school, and they asked if I would come and be a special ed teacher in an elementary grade as well as having him come there. And I was like, oh yeah. Elementary sounds much better than this junior high gig. So, we moved to Central Ohio and both had jobs, and that was actually, we went on the honeymoon and got married and interviewed for jobs the same day. It was a long day. During that week that we were away on our honeymoon, we went to the beach, and during that week, he got a call that said, "We're going to hire you. Are you ready to come?" And he said, "Not unless my wife gets a job too." So they gave me a job too, and we got home, and I packed my classroom on Monday, and we moved in on Tuesday in London, Ohio, and we started school on Wednesday. It was just, we had to get it done. So my life kind of, that kind of slid, it's like, it just slid in and fit, and I didn't really have a lot to think about except, am I going to take this job or not? But it was almost like it was set up for me, okay? And that's a theme in my life as well. So I taught elementary special education in London, Ohio for 5 more years. And I got my master's degree during that time at Ohio State University because it was only an hour away. So that was the best school to go to at the time. That was also the closest school to me, and I just fell into it. Well, when I finished my master's degree in '86, my advisor said, "Don't you want to start the doctoral program?" And I'm like, "No." And he said, "Oh, come on, it'll be fun." I said, "No, I don't want to do that ever. I'm done." A year later, I was asking if I could be in the doctoral program. And he was like, "Well, we'll see." So I applied and got into the doctoral program. The doctoral program was for special education with a specific area of applied behavior analysis, and that's the teachings of B.F. Skinner in psychology. Reinforcement and positive reinforcement and punishment, and we didn't do punishment like smack kids or paddle kids. It was first you do this, then you do this, like grandma's rule. First you get ready for bed, then you can have a dessert, or first you do your homework and then you can have your snack. So it wasn't always food choices, but behavior analysis. It's much more complex than that, and I took 3 years to learn more about it. And I had already focused on applied behavior analysis in my undergraduate and my graduate master's program, doctoral program. But so I finished when I was 31 years old, and I interviewed at 8 different places in the United States, across the U.S., from Washington to Mississippi to Maine. And I chose to go to South Mississippi and the University of Southern Miss. So I went there and I was assistant professor, which is a brand new shiny professor, and I was very close in age to the students. They were 20, 22, 24. A few of them were older than that, but I was not that far ahead of them. So they looked to me to be a role model. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? What does special ed mean? What can I do with this besides just be a teacher? And I don't mean just, because being a teacher is hard work. So I started with leadership within the students. I started to do things like be on the state board for special education in Mississippi, and did some work with publications and working with school districts specifically to do instructional strategies. And that means how a teacher teaches that affects the greatest effectiveness and makes the most effectiveness with children learning. So it was really fun. I stayed at Southern Miss for, let's see, I went there in 92, I left in 2003. And so I was there 11 years. And by the time I had gotten there, I went from assistant professor, then I became a department chair, then I became associate professor. You're supposed to be at least associate professor before your chair, but I guess they were desperate. It was an opportunity, and I kind of slid into it. I was kind of at the right place at the right time, and I was willing to do it, and I kind of thought, all right, here's the other people that could do this job. I don't want them to do it. I want to do that. So I took that opportunity that was sitting in front of me. Then I became an associate dean there. The associate dean is someone who does some of the paperwork in the main office of the college. And basically what I did is I took students' transcripts that had bad grades, and I looked to see where we could improve those grades or count them differently or excuse that semester or get their grade point up so that they could get into teacher education or into psychology. That was our college. That was going great. I thought, I could do this for a long time. And the president made some changes to the university, and the deans were all cut. They told them they could reapply. There were 6 deans, and they told them they were going to 5 deans, and everybody was welcome to reapply. In other words, you don't have a job really next year because we're not asking you to stay. Well, I was really upset for the dean that I worked with. And then a couple days later, I realized if he's gone, I might be gone too. And so I started looking for jobs. And I took a dean position at Texas Woman's University in Denton, Texas. It's about 45 minutes from Dallas. And I moved there. At the time, I also got divorced. So I got divorced. I was in the car and almost to Dallas when they called me and said, it's settled, you're divorced, here's, I'll send you the paperwork. And so I was there in Texas by myself with a new house and new job, and stressful. I seem to do those kind of things all at the same time, the stressful things, getting married and having a honeymoon and moving and getting a new job, here divorcing, getting a new job, moving to a new state. I kind of do those things together. So, but that's another thing that kind of slid in. I had an opportunity to either go back to teaching at Southern Miss, or I could take an assistant position somewhere else. A couple weeks after the positions were all kind of, nobody had asked anybody to stay on, they said, oh, would you like to stay as assistant dean? And I was like, no, thank you, gotta go. And I took a position as dean. I stayed there 3 years and had some great opportunities as a dean. You learn about leadership and you work on leadership, and my job was to take a faculty group that was broken and they had been treated very poorly. The staff and the faculty had been treated very poorly. And it was my job to bring the college back together, to build those relationships back so that it was a better place to work. And I think I did that really well. But I had ailing parents. My dad was sick. my dad lived in Pennsylvania at the time. My parents moved from Forest Park to Troy, Michigan, and in '83, right when I was getting married, they moved, and I said, "You can't do this to me." It was my first year teaching. "You can't do this to me. You can't leave me here all by myself to plan this wedding and do all this stuff." And they said, "Well, guess you better figure it out." But they moved for my dad's job so that he could retain a job in U.S. Steel. And then when my mom was very ill, she died of breast cancer in 87. And when 87, 88, 89, 88, she died of breast cancer. And my dad had moved her back to Pennsylvania near her family so that she had family close by, and then that helped her to have time to say goodbye to her family and friends from that area. But my dad had become sick then, and we moved back up this way to be close to my family and my wife's family. Now, how'd that happen? I met Karen at Southern Miss, and we were great friends. We just were friends. She moved to Minnesota to be with her husband where he was working when she finished her undergraduate degree at Southern Miss. And another 3 years, I moved to Texas. So we were in Minnesota and Texas, still great friends. We even got phones so that we could talk to each other. At the time, if you were on different networks, you couldn't talk to each other without paying for it. And if you had the same cell phone service, then you could talk to each other as many times as you wanted. So that's what we did. We got an extra set of phones. But we stayed really great friends. And I got divorced, and then she was having trouble in her marriage, and she got divorced. And she has a daughter who is Jessica, and Jessica is now 30 years old, but she was 8 and 9 and 10 when she lived in Minnesota. And living in Minnesota was tough for Karen, and as well, she was getting divorced from her husband. And she said, "I don't have anywhere to go. Can I come stay with you?" And I said, "Yeah." And I had a big enough house that everybody could have a bedroom and live together, and we had a great time and lived together, and found out that we had an attraction. And so we became partners in Texas there. And so it was about 2004 when they moved in. So it's been, how long is that, 20 years? Okay, so we became partners, and it's been 20 years. What happened, though, is that we moved back here for my dad's health, and Karen's mom lived in Baltimore and had some health issues and problems as well. And so we moved to Morehead, Kentucky. Now, Morehead, Kentucky is this little podunk town. Forest Park in the 70s was bigger than Morehead is now. All right? We have now a super Walmart, so we're big town. Big time, okay? There's not a super Walmart within half an hour. There's not, the next super Walmart's a half an hour away. So we attract a lot of the outside area people into Morehead, Kentucky for all of the business that we have. It's not much. There are the county of Rowan County, Rowan, R-O-W-A-N. I would say it Rowan, but everybody calls it Round County. So, whatever it is, that's what we call it. So we moved in, and I teach now at Morehead State University. It's pretty famous as a teacher's college. It started as a teacher's college in 1867. And so I was a special ed faculty member. I came here as an assistant dean, and I was part of my job was accreditation in teacher education to have a school and a program that meets the accreditation process, and I became a leader at this new school as well. So what happened next was that my partner Karen got breast cancer, and I stepped down during her treatment. She just had radiation treatment. Fortunately, she didn't have to go through chemotherapy, but she had 3 surgeries to get the small cancer in her breast, and it was a very trying time, and I decided that I couldn't really do the duties of the assistant dean, so I stepped down. I became a faculty member for the first time in a long time. It had been 14 years. I had been in administration for 14 years, and then after 14 years, they suggested that I might be a department chair. So I moved into department chair for special education again. I was really special education, early childhood, and elementary education. And it was a good number of faculty. It was about 25 at the time. Now it's about 12 now. Our programs are getting cut down because of the number of students that are not going into teacher education. Teacher education is very difficult, and we don't see the enrollment that we used to. So, but one day in June, it was June 26th, 2015, there was this great announcement on TV that the Obergefell case had ruled, the Supreme Court had ruled that homosexual couples could get married and be legally married in the United States. Well, we celebrated like it was Christmas, you know, and that's really exciting. We hadn't said, you know, let's get married this October or this September or 2 years from now. We hadn't said anything about that. But what happened is that we heard over the weekend that our county clerk, and her name is Ms. Kim Davis, our county clerk was not going to sign any marriage license for those gay people. So Monday morning, we showed up at the courthouse. And first thing, 8 o'clock Monday morning, walked in and said, I would like a marriage license. This is my partner, Karen. We want to get a marriage license because we want to get married. And she said, nope. We will not be issuing marriage license to homosexual partners. And I said, but it's the law. And she said, but we're not doing it here. So, all of a sudden, we have a county clerk who's ignoring federal law and is not giving us our due civil rights to get married. And we walked outside, and you know, we got all up in arms with the other people that were outside there. Other people tried and went in, and they got denied, and some of them made some big fuss about it and cried and screamed, and that wasn't our style. In fact, my partner Karen, my wife Karen, has always been more outgoing and more to speak up than I have. I've just been a quiet leader, okay? I don't know how that happened, but that's really, I never really spoke up about that I had a partner and who she was. We just lived our life, you know. But I got really upset. I got really angry. And the night before, I had looked up all of the people that I needed to talk to if I got denied a marriage license, because I knew I was going to get denied. So I first went to the county judge, and he said, I can't do anything about her. She's an elected official. You'll have to talk to the Attorney General for our city. I talked to the Attorney General for our city. He said, I'm sorry, she's an elected official. I can't do anything about it. I said, okay, who should I talk to next? And he said, I don't know. And I said, well, I know. I talked to the state. I called the governor's office, and I said, first I called the Attorney General for the state, and they said, can't do anything about it, call the governor's office. I called the governor's office. They said, well, this is a problem, but I don't think we can do anything about it. So I said, I guess I'll have to sue someone. And they said, I guess it'll take somebody suing them to make something happen. So I said, okay, I can do that. So I called the Human Rights Commission. The Human Rights is about rights of humans, and they are for equality and fairness. And they said, really, there's nothing I can do about this. We're not going to support, we can't support you on that. It's a small town thing. So I called the American Civil Liberties Union, and I called the state of Kentucky's ACLU department. And I had already read through what I would have to do if the ACLU was going to take my case. They have a form online, and you have to fill this out, and then you send it to them, and then they tell you if they're gonna take your case or not. And I talked to a lawyer there. Well, first I talked to the PR person, and she said, let me get the lawyer. And I talked to the lawyer, and he said, okay, that's something that we can do. We can help you sue this person. I said, I understand that you need the paperwork, background, and information. I'll fill it out tonight, and I'll send it to you tomorrow. And he said, oh, no, we're taking your case. Can you be in Louisville in 2 hours? And I said, no. He said, okay, we'll come to you tomorrow. So they came, these two lawyers came out and sat with myself and Karen and 3 other couples. Now, we had talked about what was going on with these other couples. One couple was also a heterosexual couple, 2 males, that they had also called the ACLU. We didn't know them. We know them now. Aaron and Barry. And then a friend of mine said, Kevin and I want to get married, and we'll get denied too, because she wasn't signing marriage licenses for anyone at the time. She said, that way I'm not discriminating.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So she thought she was getting around it, but she wasn't. So what happened is that Barry and Aaron, Jody and her partner Kevin were going to get married and ask for a license. Another girl and her partner were going to get married as well. They actually dropped out of the suit. But Karen and I are the 3rd couple. And they wrote up a lawsuit, basically, what we're going to ask for, what had happened to us. and they said, okay, we're gonna have this written tomorrow. And they sent us the information about a lawsuit for the next day. And then we approved it and said, this is okay, we're gonna work with this. And on Friday, it hit the news. It hit the news as in, like, it was 4th of July weekend coming up, and it hit the news such that people started calling my phone. I don't know how people get your phone number on your cell phone, but they got your cell phone number, and it wasn't too bad at first. It was just a couple people. So, all right, a couple people called, but it was on the news. And my family was very upset with me. They were still not very cool with this relationship. It had been 7 years, but no, it had been 10 years almost. But they still weren't very cool with it because they thought my partner was a gold digger, and perhaps because I was a dean, that I was making enough money that she would live off of me, because that's how it started, that she was coming to live with me and I was going to help support her and Jessica. Well, I said that all changed. This is not about that. This is about we love each other and we're going to get married. And one of my sisters said, you know, you could have just done this quietly. Why didn't you go to the county next door and get that? And I said, there are too many young people in our community, because it's a university committee, or community, a university committee. There are a lot of young people who still can't go home because their parents found out they were gay, or they can't say, I'm homosexual, and they have to pretend when they go home, or that they have relationships they can't ever discuss. And I said, we've been established as partners for almost 10 years. I have a stable job. They're not going to kick me out. We have a diversity statement at the university that says we're not going to discriminate against you. And I'm older. I can be a role model for these students. And that settled my sister down a little bit. She was doing better after we talked about that. But she was still thinking that I should have done this quietly. You've never talked about getting married, and now you're forcing marriage on yourselves. And after I had called all these places, the ACLU, and said I'm in a lawsuit, I looked at one of my friends and I said, I guess I have to marry her now. But that was a pleasure. It made us happy. So there were protests at the courthouse against Kim Davis and her not signing the marriage licenses. We actually went to court on August 12th, and what happened was that we had a hearing, and it took a couple days to go through all the points and all the messages and all the questions. And the second time we showed up at the court, they said, are you involved in the case? And I said, yes. And they took us around back to the back of the courthouse and said, you're going to park your car here. And somebody came up and said, are you a part of the clerk's office, or are you a defendant? And I said, I'm a defendant. And they said, oh, you're not going to park back here. Go ahead around. So they let us out. And the reason that they did that was because at that court case, the case that day, the judge made a decision that Kim Davis had to issue marriage licenses, and she said she would not. And when she said she would not issue these marriage licenses, he said, that's contempt of court. You can issue the licenses or you can go to jail. And she said, I'll go to jail. She went to jail. Your cats are calling.
I know.
So she went to jail that weekend. She went to jail that weekend and stayed in, I don't remember how many days, but she was in jail. And we had the right to marry. There were other clerks that said, I will sign the marriage licenses. There was one guy that said he would sign them. The other clerks said, no, not really, but the judge said, if Brian will sign them, then you are all free to go. As long as you make sure that somebody is signing those licenses immediately. So we went the next Monday, the next business day, and got a marriage license. And it was a big celebration, and there were actually helicopters flying over. This is a really small town, guys. Helicopters flying over. I'm like, are the choppers necessary? You know, it's just, there were priests and ministers. There were people protesting for the marriage licenses. There were people protesting against marriage licenses. They were shouting obscenities and, you know, calling names, and had signs about Bible verses and everything. And I just had to ignore that. It was very hurtful things that were being said, and we had to pretty much ignore that circus. So the ministers said, you want to get married now? And I'm like, I don't think I really want to get married right here, right now, with all the crowd and all that. So we waited on September 9th, we had a very informal ceremony at the house with a friend, Paula, her daughter, as a witness, Angie, who was the minister, and Karen and myself and our daughter, Jessica. We kept Jessica all out of the protests and all out of all that because she is a child with Down syndrome and moderate disabilities. We didn't want her to be caught up in all of that. Well, Jessica had picked up on all this stuff. Jessica is quite intelligent for a child with moderately disabled. And we would talk at the dinner table sometimes, and Jessica would say, "No talking business." And then she'd say, "Do your job." Do your job, Kim Davis. So Jessica knew what was going on, and she was aware, but we didn't want her involved in any way. We didn't want pictures of her on the news or anything. As we were going through all of this, there were news media, there was radio, news, internet. One day I talked to 22 different outlets, media outlets. It was the day that we actually got the marriage licenses. Karen was like, I'm not doing any of that. And some of the other people didn't really want to be a part. And the lawyer said to me, you got to pick this up and talk. And you are the person that can do that. So I took on the role of doing that for the marriage licenses. We got married on a Tuesday night or a Thursday night, September 9th. We didn't want to do September 11th. So our friends got married on the 9th. We got married on the 10th, and then it was September 11th. So our friends, Aaron and Barry, got married at the university in an office space that somebody came and did their ceremony for them. and we got them flowers, and then that was it. Okay? At our house, we had some cake and flowers, and it was fun. And then people said, "Oh, you got married? We didn't know you got married. We thought you were going to get married like so everybody could see it." And so in October, we had another marriage. We actually got a room and catering, and we had another ceremony, and there was some news media there, but it was not Reuters, but the other one.
USA Today,
No,
Associated
it was
Press.
the Associated Press, AP. The Associated Press came and talked to us. The ACLU did a video with us talking about why we did this and what we were trying to accomplish, and it's basically we just wanted to get married. Now, we didn't think that, right off when we were doing this, we didn't think, oh, okay, you get a marriage license, you got 30 days to get married. Oh, okay, well, I guess we're getting married quick. And we did, September 10th. And then we had this ceremony where everybody came, and we invited anybody who had protested, people at my work, friends of Karen's, my family. My brother came from Michigan and was there for the ceremony, then drove right home. It was amazing stuff, but we had a ceremony on October 26th or 27th, and got married so that everybody could see, because people were invested in this. They had protested, they were angry, they had spent days at the courthouse trying to protest and get her to sign papers. They had a parade through town to protest. A lot of that we weren't allowed to go be a part of. So we would bring them water, or we'd bring food for the people that were there, or we would stop by and honk horns and all the way past it. But that's really how I got married, and why I became a fighter. Politics is local, and it's a part of the case of with Obergefell. One of the challenges was Miller v. Davis, and I'm proud of that, and I'm pleased to have been a leader and part of this process of getting marriage licenses and marriage rights for people with who are differing, who are homosexual, and I'm very proud to have done that. It was scary. It was a long time. It seemed like it was fast, but from June till late October, our lives were a big blur. And I don't remember that semester very well. I mean, I had to teach my classes and do my grading and be a department chair, but I don't remember that semester because my life was so embroiled in this. It was more important for me to get those things graded, but it was also important for me to talk to Al Jazeera America when they called, or do, NBC, whatever it is, MSNBC, when they called. So.
Did Fox ever call?
No, Fox did not call. BBC America, or BBC Radio called me from Europe, and they had on Stivers, who was the attorney for Kim Davis. They had me on, and then they didn't tell me that he was on too. And then he was on right after me, and I was like, what did you just do? What did I say wrong? And then he, of course, he slammed me for whatever. But I did the best I could. But I'm very proud to have been a part of it. So, yeah.
And you succeeded in Kim not winning.
Her, she didn't win her reelection,
She didn't get it.
right. We have a new guy.
There's another element that I read about
Mhm.
studying the Wikipedia report.
Mhm.
It turns out that another outcome of
Mhm.
your action is that the governor at the time of Kentucky, named Andy Beshear,
Mhm.
made an executive order declaring it illegal to require a county clerk's signature
County clerk's signature,
in,
that was,
in Kentucky. So
mhm.
Kentucky is no longer required to have
To
a
have the
county clerk's
signature.
signature. Thanks.
But he also lost the election.
Yes.
And Matt Bevin was the new governor, Republican governor. And a lot of people voted for him because of the case of Miller v. Davis. The president of the university said, yeah, I really think that you turned the tide in the governor's race as well. I was like, well, don't put that on me. But yeah, he said that as well, so.
Well, he only lost a one term, so.
He was a one-termer. That was good.
Yeah, that's right.
We got another brochure back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I know it ran a little long, but are there any questions? Anything I can tell you about? Well, I'll be here for a few minutes.
Don't stop yet.
Okay, don't stop
I
yet.
have something. Just
Yes.
have some questions.
Tell us about your life now. Is Karen still around?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Karen's still around. We've been married 8 years. It'll be 9 years in September. And we celebrate September 10th, and then we celebrate October 27th. Sometimes people will say, happy anniversary in October, and I'm like, oh, yeah. It was that other marriage. So we do that, and we've been partners for 20 years. And Jess is definitely my daughter. She's 30 years old now. She's lived with me since she was 10. We just got back from family vacation in Destin, Florida. That was wonderful. And Karen's still around. We have a boring life, you know. A big highlight's going out for dinner. We're going to take Jess to the movies this weekend to see If, I think, is the one she wants to see. So, you know, we live just a life like everybody else. Get up, go to work, come home, make dinner. Yeah.
Have you thought about writing a book, like even for children, since your background is with children?
No, I haven't.
You've got a really good story and a sense of humor.
Oh, well,
You
thank
tell it
you.
very well.
You bet.
Thank you.
I
I'll have to
a
consider that.
commentary, if I may.
Another
Sure.
question?
I'm fascinated listening to you talk, listen to your story.
Mhm.
Because my daughter and daughter-in-law, who have been married for 9 years,
Mhm.
had a similar life thing, met originally at work,
Mhm.
and eventually found that they belonged together.
Right.
They would be so much like you, by the way, my daughter's name is Karen. And they absolutely loved life. Carolyn's met them, has seen them, they have a ball, they travel,
Mhm.
and it's just fascinating to hear your story because those two stories are just such a similarity. And I look at them and I say, what a fascinating life they lead, and the fun they're having,
Oh, yeah.
and the love they share with people, and the people share with them. I think, wow. And they got married in Florida at Siesta Key because they couldn't get married in Kentucky at that time.
Mhm.
Because they couldn't get a marriage license.
That's right.
Bingo.
That's right.
I thought you ought to hear that.
Well, have them watch the video.
Okay, I will do that.
Did you have another question in the back?
Got a question?
Okay.
I had one other element to express appreciation for what we do, is present our
Oh.
speakers with a memento.
Okay.
Now, you're a Forest Park grad, and Forest Park is no longer,
Right.
so it has to be a Winton
Winton
Woods.
Woods. Excellent.
That's a tote bag
Thank you.
with the new logo on it,
Okay.
and a visor that you can wear
Nice.
with the Warriors symbol
Warriors,
on
all
it.
right. Well, I followed their football team, especially when they were in championships and stuff. So I still, and they went to state, and I was very proud to be from Winton Woods. The new principal at the high school
Yes,
is,
Steve Denny.
No, Eric Martin is the principal at the high school, Eric Martin.
Steve Denny's
Are you thinking of the superintendent?
no, I'm thinking of I think it was the high school principal. His name is, he might be a principal at one of the other schools. His name is, can't think of it. He was a Fairfield grad and just came from another district to be a high school, or I thought it was high school, to be a principal in the Winton Woods district. And his Bauer, Jay Bauer is his name. He may be a middle school or an elementary principal, but Jay Bauer was a student of mine at Morehead State. Also, we have an adjunct faculty member, her name is Bev Smith, and she was an administrator for, I believe, special ed or early childhood education in Forest Park. It may have been at Winton Woods by then, but I think they're both Winton Woods people, and we connect across different avenues at Morehead State. So it's been interesting to catch up with some of those people. But it's great to see everybody and to catch up with you. Thank you very much.
I think the hat's appropriate. She is a true warrior, right?
Yeah. Yes.